Welcome in, wrestling fans, and man, Dyson, we had quite the weekend. Super 32. You and I both weren't able to make it down, but we followed along all the action over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, down in Myrtle Beach. Dyson, first of all, what were your thoughts about the Super 32 and just that the fact that they got the tournament off, especially during COVID? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it was awesome that they were able to get it off. To be honest, I when they first were planning it, and then with all this COVID stuff, s- and then North Carolina wasn't allowing to have it. It didn't seem like I wasn't too optimistic about it. I didn't think we were gonna have it, but really awesome that they were able to get all these health protocols and be able to get it get it on and have some great wrestling down in Myrtle Beach. I was actually down there wrestling in Myrtle Beach earlier this summer, so Myrtle Beach's been holding a lot of wrestling this summer.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when you were down there because it was on the news down there, and you got a couple good matches in there, and I wish you would have went down to Super 32 this year,
I
maybe,
do too.
but I understand
I'm
things.
definitely going down next year.
I know. So tonight we're going to talk about Super 32, how Pennsylvania wrestlers did at Super 32. We're also going to talk about True Power. So the first thing we're going to talk about is True Power, and that was last weekend. Well, not this past weekend, 2 weeks ago, and I still can't believe True Power's over, Dyson. We were talking about that
It's over.
the whole way we're home from Tyrone. Like, man, what do we do now? It's over. Because in the moment, True Power was very hectic, very stressful for me. Um, but in once wrestling actually started, I felt
Yeah,
much more at ease. It was I could actually enjoy some of the wrestling a little bit. And man, did we have for the first year, like I don't know how we're gonna top it because we had such good wrestling. We had so many good things happen to us with the event. Scrap Life came through big time. Was able to give all the wrestlers a pair of shoes. Winners got bags. It was just, it was really cool to see, um, all the folks come together, and it just seemed like everyone was excited to get back on the mat. Everyone was excited to get back in the gyms and wrestle. So I'm excited for True Power and what it has to hold in the future. We had 18 hammer matches, and again, you can check all those matches online on rockfin.com. Even if you're not a subscriber now, you can subscribe now and watch all of those 18 matches on replay on demand. But Tyson, what was your favorite match? Because we talked about this. What was your favorite match of True Power? What do you think?
well, first off, I'd like to say, like you were talking, True Power. I mean, we probably said at least 50 times on the way home. Like can't believe it's over. We put so much work into it, and then it's like it finally happened, and we did it. Like you said, it was like once the wrestling started, that first match, Switcher Hausman, I was like my legs were shaking. I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening. And then once that happened, I was like, whew, we're wrestling. But my favorite match, we I thought about this a long time. We were we talked about this a lot on the way home because it was really hard to pick just one, but I'm gonna have to take Bassett Desmond. I think that one. I tweeted it out last week, I think, but I even went back and rewatched it. Like Desmond getting the early lead, having Bassett on his back, and then Bo just coming back. There's some crazy scrambles, lots of action, and I think that was just a great match. I really like that one.
I can't argue with you there. I mean, that was a great match, and you and I kind of were talking about how Bo had just been so dominant, and it's been a while since those two wrestled, and you were kind of the camp like Bo's not going to have any trouble. It's going to be I didn't think you didn't say he was going to blow him out, but you said he wasn't going to have any trouble. So when Desmond came out firing, I was just like, I was so hyped because I was like, here we go. Because we haven't seen Bassett down. We haven't seen him, I mean, not in a while at least, him have to fight back in a match like that. So, I think it was a good match for him just to have that, little extra motivation, especially being down. That was a lot of fun flurries on that. Um, if you ask me what my favorite match was, I almost lead towards the opening match, Jude
Yeah.
Swisher and Kyle Hauserman. I mean, it was just. I went back and watched it, and I'm like, shadow wrestling. I'm going like this because it was there were so many good scrambles in that, and Jude was able to come out on top on some weird, funky positions. Houseman scored that opening takedown that I thought was just like. Really, just a solidified where he was at in the match. So, I really like that match. I think an underrated match is AHR and Rocco Welsh.
Yeah.
That was a 4-2 match, much different than when we saw them wrestle at the Surge several years ago. Um, some of the other matches that stuck out to me was Montana DeLauder versus Lily Scher. Obviously, two highly accomplished girl wrestlers in Pennsylvania. Just to see them, strap up and go at it, and I think we joked about it because Montana I thought like I kept on thinking like she was up. She was gonna wrestle, but she wasn't. She was just warming up and she was like so hyped throughout the day. It was crazy. She couldn't stop. And I kept on looking because, for that we had to move the table out for the freestyle matches, for the side judge. And I kept on thinking like is she up next? Because she was like right there next to the entranceway. Um, that was a good match. I thought Dalton Perry and Vinny Kilcarry was probably the best, like high action, high impact match. It
Yeah.
was only a 3 minute and 30 second match. It was a fall for Perry, but he was down in that match when Kilcarry was when he got pinned. So Perry, gosh, I mean Kilcarry just wins the Super 32. Perry just won the Super 32 in the middle school division. I, I'm just like shocked at how well Perry looked in that match and composed, and both those guys are high flying wrestlers, man. Those neither one of them likes to surrender any type of points.
That's a match. I'd like to see that one go the distance again and see how many points are on the board. That was
There was a lot of good scrambles in that. The
yeah.
headlocks, just the back and forth. It was that was a great match. I really liked that one. Um, I thought Mac Church, Tyler Kasak was a good match. I thought Mac really looked sharp. I thought Tyler looked a little flat in some instances, but he he looked great this weekend. So he obviously did something different because they both looked really well. And then of course Mason Gibson and Gary Steen, kind of one of the highlight matches that we talked about coming into this, the old guard versus new guard, senior versus freshman. Gibson looked good in that match. He was able to slow some of Gary's attacks down, but also he was kind of controlling the tempo of the match. It seemed like I went back and watched that one a couple times too. It seemed like he was just, Gary was always the one trying to get back to his position, whereas Gibson was just kind of controlling center a little bit. Did you watch that one back, Dyson?
No, I think I think I did, but yeah, that was definitely a good one. I feel like maybe it's a little underrated too. A lot of people said it was good, but then there's other people. I mean, it was high action and I my favorite sequence probably right at the end there when Steen was down, he went to try for that inside tripper on the edge, and then Gibson went to try to throw him to counter it, and that was crazy right there on the edge. But I think overall that was a really good match with a lot of high action.
Yeah, I mean points weren't being thrown around like crazy in the
Yeah.
match, but it was still there was a lot of action in the match itself. Um, the one of the best scrambles had to be Jared Kessler and Panero Johnson. Do you remember that one? Where like I mean I don't even know what you would call it. He like did a somersault out of it somehow, and I'm sitting right here, and all I just see is like Panero just like pop up out of the sky, and
The one where Jared just like basically threw him off of him.
yeah. Jared basically like shucked him off of him. He just kind of like it was just kind of weird how that happened. He just kind of threw him off of him. I thought that was a good match. I thought Cole Hammett and Ian Oswalt just battled. I mean, that went to tiebreaker. Those two looked just absolutely just like I don't care who wins this match. This match just needs to end. It just seems kind of like that. But I thought those two wrestled well. I thought Joey Fisher and Dylan Chappell was a great match. I thought for a second there, like on the mat return, do you remember that mat return?
Yeah.
I was like, we want to check him. Like that was a hard return. I loved watching those two wrestle though. I thought that was a great match too. I went back and watched that one. I watched all of them back, but that was one I definitely took notes on that said, this one had a lot of good action in it.
Yeah, I think like you said, Cole Hammett, Oswald, they were both really tired, but I think it was one of the most 1-0 matches that were a lot of action. I would think it was a great match being 1-0, and it was a great win for Hammett. After I interviewed him after the match, and he was just fired up about that one, getting the revenge after Oswald majored him last year.
Yeah, I mean that's a big turnaround for him, right? I mean he gets majored by him a year ago at Powerade, and then comes back in True Power, wins a dogfight of a match, 1-0. So yeah, that was a good match. Eric Gibson, AJ Corrado, um, you know, Eric just looked like a different level, and I know AJ's playing football, so he's not necessarily in full wrestling shape yet, probably, but Eric still, I mean, he really turned it up pretty much on his feet. He kind of turned it on. Carter Dybert, Cole Bisco was a good match. Carter was able to get to his attacks. Um, Cole was looked good. He just Carter just looked that much better. I think Carter really looks good. He looks bigger, stronger. So I think we're going to see a different style of Carter Dybert this year. He looked like he was just kind of using his strength a little bit more than he had in the past. Instead of finesse, he was able to really use strength. Speaking of strength, Nick Feldman, my gosh, someone asked me, a non wrestling person asked me at Tyrone. They said, "Who's the best wrestler in this room tonight?" And I was like, I mean, can you say anyone but Nick Feldman? Nick Feldman was just absolutely, insane, and Nathan Taylor was no easy match. I mean, he was giving up weight.
He went down to Super 32 this weekend and
Yeah,
hung with the number one guy in the country.
you're right. He did. He did.
4-2, I think.
Right. It was a good match that Taylor had with him at heavyweight. So Feldman came in. I mean, he tech followed him 20-5 in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I mean,
Well,
that was just completely insane the way he was able to dominate such a stronger, bigger opponent too.
if you guys want to say that Nathan Taylor, like if you want to say that's not a good one, well, how about going back to his number one when he uh, majored in the then I believe, or it was either number two, number one guy in the country, but I mean that's like that's another one of the best guys in the country. Yeah, he majored, so I mean,
Yeah, I mean, Feldman came in, I think, number two. Haas was number one in the
yeah.
nation, and he came in and he majored him. So that was, I think, Feldman was the most dominant performer of the night. Max Stout wasn't far behind. Max Stout looked really, really good against Jack Waymeyer. Now, Jack had, I mean, I wouldn't say he did anything. He wrestled well. I think just Mac is on a different level. I mean, Mac looks basically like he did in March of last year in Hershey. I think he's looked. I don't think he's lost a beat. I'm really excited to see Mac up a weight here at 182. That area, I was excited to see him and what he was able to do. He just looked like an offensive machine out there, and he was able to get the fall over Waymeyer.
Yeah, no, and then another one of the matches, Levi Haynes, Nate Lucier, both Haynes a Super 32 finalist and Lucier a semifinalist this past weekend. Against in that match, Lucier, I remember I think we were talking about it this weekend. Haynes just goes out there and demolishes kind of Lucier, just measures him in 13-1, but then Lucier goes and makes the semifinals at Super 32. So that shows how good Lucier really is. And I think Haynes is just on a complete another level this year coming up.
I would agree with you, Dyson, and I said that I think over the weekend was it's not just that Lucier was not a good wrestler because he got majored at True Power. I think Haynes is just that much better than the rest of the competition right now. And of course, we saw him in the finals of Super 32, but Lucier was also a semifinalist at 132. So you look at what Levi was able to do to him at True Power. That's a testament to how good Levi looked. And I thought Levi looked with really, really good. You know, at True Power, but also at Super 32 this past weekend. So, um, and Luzier was probably giving up a little bit of weight because he wrestled then 132 down at Myrtle Beach, but that was a great match. I think Luke Augustine and Malachi Duval. Now I got to give a shout out to Malachi Duval because
Yeah.
he literally found out at 9 a.m. that day that he was going to be wrestling in True Power. So, Trey Kibe is playing in a football game on Friday night, gets injured. Um, you know, is very disappointed that he can't wrestle in the match against Luke Augustine. Luca calls me. He's like, "Hey, what are we doing?" And luckily Malachi was already wrestling. He was wrestling at the Lock Haven Fall Duels, and he had DM'd us saying he wanted a match. So it was a pretty natural uh, progression there. So he was able to just fill right in and wrestle. So I thought that was awesome for Malachi to come in day of and wrestle a very tough opponent like Luke Augustine. Malachi's a state medalist. He's going to Navy, and Luke Augustine also a state medalist going to Pitt. So two Division One recruits. I like the match. Luca did pretty much dominate. In fact, he had he had a lot of highlight reels takedowns on that one, Dyson. So um, I think really look at the matches overall. Even our girls' matches, Ava's match, she got a fall over Andy Subishin, but she was in that match. I mean, Andy was in that match for a good part of it, and Ava was just she just got to her offense and she was really really good. She had Maya Nelson, coach from YMSM, in her corner, so um, there was just so many good moments. It's like hard to pin them all down. Um, it was an overall fun time, Dyson. I had a great time. I lied. I had a great time once wrestling started. Before that, it was just like balls to the wall, completely hectic. I thought my head was gonna fall off. Yeah, it was wild, man. One day that's gonna be you. All right.
We can't forget about our cherry on top. Brock Sackrell versus Kyle Shoop.
I mean, how could we forget? I'm repping the Clarion shirt, the Clarion State shirt. I love it. Shout out Brock Zacharel. He hooked me up with a sweet Clarion shirt. Brock and Kyle. Again, Kyle, just like Malachi. In fact, Kyle FaceTimed me to weigh in at 8 in the morning, and Malachi, as it turns out, was like right near him when that happened, not knowing he was going to wrestle in True Power, and that was kind of cool. And Kyle was coaching all day. He was up at Lock Haven all day. Um, Rolls in, straps up, wrestles. Um, that was a good. Brock looked really good. Brock looked really
Brock.
good in that match.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Brock can do in freestyle. I think he's going to transition really well into freestyle. As we saw at the NLWC card a couple days later, he ended up losing to Jared Verkleeren. But I mean, he was up in that match, it was late 4-3. Then 20 seconds left. Verkleeren was able to get a 4 and then just leg lace him, and he could have leg laced him for days. That leg lace is nasty from Verkleeren. But like I said, I think Zacharel transitions really well into freestyle, and excited to see what he does on the senior level.
Yeah, it was crazy because both Kyle Shoop and Brock Zacharel each wrestled on
Yeah,
Tuesday night. So they wrestled Saturday night at True Power, last match, featured match. I think their match started maybe like 8:15, 8:20 at night.
had to make sure we got it in before Brock's
Had
bedtime.
Brock's bedtime is strictly 9 o'clock. So, I felt bad we had to keep him so close to his bedtime. He turns around Tuesday. Both of those wrestlers end up turning around wrestling. They both lost at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club event. Um, Kyle looked good. He's gonna have some growing pains with freestyle. I mean, I think just once he gets more acclimated with freestyle and really competes in it, I think he'll be okay. Um, Especially if he can start working his guts and because he was so good with the tilt that I feel like that's a good transition for him. Brock, on the other hand, as you mentioned, Verkleeren, Brock was in control of the match, I think, for majority of it, but then Jared is so dangerous. I mean, he got the takedown, went right to that lace, and like you said, he could have laced him all the way down to Belfont if he wanted to. I mean, he just could have rolled for days, and um, Jared's just Jared's, I think, a better freestyle wrestler than he is a folk style wrestler, and
Oh
I
yeah,
think a lot of people
definitely.
would agree. Um, I was excited to see them wrestle. How about Bo Bartlett, Bryce Meredith? That was probably the
Who
best
that
match.
was?
That was such a good match. I loved watching those two wrestle. I could watch those two wrestle every day of the week, man.
Yeah, I mean Meredith ended up coming out with the win there. Obviously, way older than Bartlett. 8-6, I believe the score, but Bartlett was right on the leg there, right at the end. Meredith, I remember right at the last second when the clock went off, he was kicking out of a single leg. So I mean, that shows you right there how Bartlett, how close he was to getting that win.
I'm pumped to see Bartlett at the NCAA level. I mean, you're talking about Bryce Meredith, a guy who's one of the top wrestlers in the last couple years to come through, and Bartlett is just, I mean, he's a household name really, and I can't wait to see what he does in college. I think he's gonna make a lot of people, um, you know, double think going to whatever weight class he ends up. Kind of like Carter Staraki. Carter Staraki looked amazing. I've been a Carter Staraki fan since he was in junior high. Man, the kid is just, he's good. He placed at states his freshman year. Um, he is just continues to get better and better and better. We saw him in Fargo do really well, and then continues to improve. He don't forget, who did he beat in the Dapper Dan, the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic? Dyson, do you remember?
That might have been that might have been
That was
before
like
my
a couple
time.
years ago.
That was before my
No, it
time.
wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't, because the guy who he beat is currently a freshman, or he's now a sophomore at Iowa.
Let me think. What? Wait. Oh, no, that gave it away.
Come on, Dyson.
What state's he from?
Dyson. He's a young kid he wrestled last year as a true freshman for Iowa. There's only one of them.
Was it Abe Assad?
Yes,
Abe Assad wrestled in the Dapper Dan
yes,
at
and
Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic.
Carter Strachey beat him.
How did I not know this?
It
What
was
was the score
before
of
my.
that
It was
match?
before your time, apparently.
Exactly.
That was not
What
before your time, Dyson. It was 2 years ago.
was that the year? Nah, was that the year after DeSanto wrestled?
Um, no, it was 2 years after DeSanto and Spencer wrestled, I believe.
See, that's all before my time.
No, it's not.
The
Well,
only thing I remember from before like 2018, or actually maybe 2019, but before the only two things I remember from then is Caleb Young's state title and Spencer losing to DeSanto in the state finals.
okay. Well, it was after both of those events, so like,
I said those are the only two things I remember.
but it was years. It was 2 years after that. You know, Dyson. Come on, man. For an Iowa guy,
I
for an Iowa guy, I thought you would know that. Carter Strachey,
it's,
Penn State beats the Iowa recruit. So Carter redshirts last year. Abe ends up wrestling. Um, I can't wait to see. Hopefully, these two wrestle again. That was a great match at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. Speaking of some great wrestling, we talked about True Power. So we talked how Scrap Life was able to come in. They gave every wrestler a pair of shoes. They were also had a film crew on scene there. They had the sickest highlight video, I think, in the history of highlight videos ever. Dyson, you've watched this a few times, right?
a few times, maybe 100.
Yeah, I maybe 100. I'd say I'm right there with you. I think I made my wife watch it at least 10 times, and even she, even Lauren was like, "That's sick. That's awesome." So if she's like somewhat intrigued by it, it's pretty cool. I think we're gonna play it for the fans, Dyson. What do you
Let's
think
do
about
it.
that? You want to do that?
Gotta show him.
All right.
Gotta
We'll,
show
we'll be back in like 2 minutes. All right. Watch this. that's not the sickest highlight video ever, Tyson,
Yeah.
I gotta find a better one because that was. I mean, I got chills just watching that. There was so. I mean, it was so many of the best moves. You had the Jared Kessler throwing Panero up off of him. You had the inside trip from Eric Gibson. You had the re-attack for Luca Augustine on Malachi Duval. It was just, and of course you had the headlock from Dalton Perry. It was just like that. That was sick. I love that, man. I'm gonna play that video basically every day until the next True Power or the next event that we end up doing, Dyson. What do you think? Pretty
My f-
much sums it up right there.
yeah, my favorite part's got to be right at the end when the whole thing cuts out, black screen, and then it comes back on and shows like three guys raising their hand with like the sick music behind it,
Yeah, you
and then
got
cuts to the Scrap Life
Joey
logo.
Fisher throwing the C, for Clarion. He's Mason Gibson just kind of, yep, here I am. It was awesome, man. Shout out to Scrap Life again. They came through big time for True Power, which is awesome. A couple of our other sponsors there, Tactile Mind, as you can see here. I got my Tactile Mind cup and koozie. Also 9-2 Dyson. I better throw these on over top my glasses. These are. What do you think about these?
Woohoo!
I feel like I look pretty good with these on.
Styling.
I put these on and walked upstairs, and my wife just looked at me. She's like, "Jeff, what the hell are you doing? Why do you have those on?" This is 9-2. Jason
Lauren
Cornell and his.
Lauren doesn't respect fashion. She
I think she respects fashion. I just don't think she respects my taste in fashion. So, yeah, that was True Power was awesome. Again, you can watch back all the matches on Rockfin. Go to Rockfin. It's actually the pinned post that we have True Power matches. So go back and watch that. Dyson, before we get back into Super 32, we're going to go to a quick commercial break for the Tactile Mind. And remember that you can use the promo code POWER to get 50% off your first consultation. So we'll be right back in 30 seconds.
This is the Tactical Mind, and I work with athletes in the field of sports psychology as a cognitive performance coach. Within 5 minutes of talking to a parent, they make the connection right away that this would be great for my kid to have when they're in college, when they're just going through the ups and downs of high school. Who wouldn't benefit from having more self-awareness? Who wouldn't benefit from having the ability to self-regulate our emotions and our counterproductive thoughts? Who wouldn't benefit from having more optimism, not just on the field, but in life?
Again, visit the tactilemindllc.com. You can use the promo code POWER and receive 50% off your first consultation with Nick Fuller of the Tactile Mind. Definitely time to start gearing up for that because as you train your body, you have to train your mind as well. Speaking of training, Dyson, we're going to probably find out a lot more on the 28th, which is just a couple days, Thursday, right? From the PIAA about winter sports. So I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic about what the outlook is for winter sports. I think I saw somewhere, might have been Michigan. It seems like a Michigan thing to do. That they
it's a
said,
Michigan
was
thing.
it Michigan? You already know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. The winter sports they have to wear masks. They have to, other than swimming, winter sports
I
has to wear masks. Like what the
I would
heck?
just I wouldn't wrestle for the school. I'd just do like club stuff and go to the national duels and all. I mean, that's how can you even do that? It's like
I don't. I mean, I don't think you can. I don't. I don't. They. I mean, I guess if you're WWE, I mean, Kane wore a mask for his whole life. Mick Foley, Mankind, he wore a mask. That's way before your time. Um, you can. You can.
if we're I
Yeah,
can't even go back to 2018. That is way before my
yeah,
time.
you can't even remember Abe Assad wrestled in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. You've got a few things.
That didn't happen.
It did happen. Did
Oh,
happen.
that didn't happen.
You're gonna question PA Power. You're gonna question the greatest mind in Pennsylvania wrestling. Dana
Didn't
White.
happen.
You think you're Dana White, don't you?
Yep, Dana White with hair.
Dana White with hair. I like it. So, True Power, great success. Let's talk about Super 32 because Super 32 happened the weekend after True Power, and it seemed like about half, maybe more than half the guys and girls who wrestled in True Power wrestled in the Super 32, which was awesome. Um, the fact that they were able to put it on in Myrtle Beach was great. I tweeted out that, great job by the Super 32 staff because, I mean, it's hard enough to run a tournament without COVID and health restrictions in place, it's hard in itself. But then you add in that extra layer, and it's like 20 times harder to do. So hats off for them to actually do it. They could have easily just been like, you know what, we're not going to do it this year. It's too much. But Super 32 did happen. Dyson, Pennsylvania came away with 19 medals. Now that's cheating a little bit, right? Because 3 of them aren't really Pennsylvanians, so we'll call it 16.
You take out the 3 though, we still
Still
got
got
the most by a
16.
mile.
We've still got everyone by a mile. New Jersey, Iowa, New York, Georgia, Tennessee. Although Georgia and Tennessee, I got to give credit where credit's due.
The Southeast.
The Southeast, I don't know
Shout out Cliff Fretwell.
Cliff Fretwell, it must be the fact that he's wearing a Pittsburgh Pirates hat all the time that he's getting some success out of these guys. But Southeast, man, shout out to you guys because you guys are killing it, man. I love seeing Tennessee and Georgia and those states doing really well. So getting back to Pennsylvania, starting off at 106 pounds, Vinny Kilcarry. So you lose a week prior to an 8th grader, right? Dalton Perry, who is a guy who's had Vinny's number, right? Vinny was up in the match, ends up headlocked, getting pinned. He comes back. Now he's down at 106 now and ends up winning the Super 32. And I'm not saying he did it in like easy fashion, but he looked pretty good in all his matches, his 6 matches. He had an 8-5 win in the opening round match, which we thought that was going to be a tough one. He had a tech fall, a major over Nick O'Neill from Malvern Prep, freshman. Very tough match for him there, but he was able to really light up the scoreboard. Then a 9-3 or 9-2 win over Anthony Knox of New Jersey, 3-1 win in the semifinals, and then 5-2 in the finals over Braden Davies. So what were your thoughts overall on Vinny's just performance, especially after his True Power match?
Yeah, like you said, he lost to an 8th grader the week before. He actually lost to Vince Bizakis, another PA 8th grader, early in the Olympic duels, I believe. So he has had a couple bumps this offseason against, but those are tough 8th graders nonetheless. But this weekend, like you said, he pretty not dominant fashion, but everyone he beat, it was a tough match every time. Starting off with Marcelo Milani, that kid's really tough, and I knew that was gonna be a tough one going into it, and then end up coming out with the win 8-5, and then
and he was down in that match, right?
Yeah, he was.
He was down in that match. Vinny had to come back in that match to end up winning that match, and you called it, Dyson. I'll give credit where credit's due.
I know my freshman.
You do know your freshman for sure. You may not know Awasad and Carter Staraki, but you do know guys.
That didn't happen.
It did, Dyson. But Vinny Kilcarry had that very tough opening round match with Milani, and I thought, okay, he had to come back for it, and everyone was tweeting about like Vinny Kilcarry, tough draw for Milani in the first round with Vinny Kilcarry, but he looked really good throughout the whole tournament. And 106 was so wide open coming into Super 32, right? There wasn't a strong pecking order of 106 pounders, and he really solidified himself as the top guy in the nation, I feel, at 106 pounds. Would you agree that he's now the top 106 pounder in the nation? Dyson, we lost you there for a second. Were you checking on the classic results from a couple years ago? Were you studying up or what?
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back.
All right, you're back. What do you think this solidifies Vinny as the top ranked 106 pounder in the nation?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, 106 was kind of wide open coming in. Number 1 seed, Nate Jesseroga of Iowa, ended up getting upset. Some of these freshmen, you have no idea who they are, and then they come into Super 32 and they're in the finals. Or it's 106 is always fun at Super 32 because you get to see a bunch of new faces of freshmen coming in. But like you said, I think Vinny really solidified his spot as number 1 guy in the country here.
Yeah, I remember when JoJo Aragona was at 106 pounds at the Super 32, made the finals.
He wrestled 106.
He did, but that's way before your time.
Yep.
Forget about it. If it happened 3 weeks ago, it's before Dice's time.
Oh.
Was that the guy from Iowa you kept on texting us about, who nobody cared about?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Nathan Jesseroga,
Jesseroga,
Southeast Polk,
okay.
Iowa.
Yeah. Okay. Great. means nothing to me. I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know who he is. I don't know anything about him. You just
He
kept
was
on.
the one seed at Super
He
32.
didn't win it, did he?
He took third.
All right, third's good. Vinny was the only one from Pennsylvania to place. Nick O'Neill was unable to come back. He actually injury defaulted. 113. Not a lot of Pennsylvania power here, but Colin Rath. My gosh. So
It's
he
a
was
lot of
at
matches. Jeez.
yeah, he had a ton of matches. I think it was 9 total. Colin Rath also at True Power a week ago, not wrestling, working, right? We put him to work. So Colin got into True Power, so we were like, "Hey, we got to put you to work here." Colin was running one of the cameras, did a great job. He and I had a good thing going there, and shout out to Colin and thank you for coming out and helping us out at True Power. He got to watch his friend Nathan Desmond and teammate, former or future teammates Tyler Kasak. So, but Colin, talk about what he was able to do. My gosh, he wins his first 2 matches, some tough first round matches, loses to Jorf Volk from Minnesota 4-2, then rattles off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches to end up into the medal round. Ends up losing his last 2, but honestly, I mean, who can blame him? He wrestled 9 matches in 2 days. I mean, but for an 8th grader, he's an 8th grader. Now, I
Yeah.
accidentally tweeted that he was a 9th grader because I was so high on emotions thinking about Colin and what he was able to do down there. But he's an 8th grader, so he's an 8th grader who's already placed at the Super 32 high school division. That's got to skyrocket him up your junior high rankings, Dyson.
Oh yeah. He's real tough. He's been tough whole way through the elementary and junior high circuit, and it's really cool to see him go down to Myrtle Beach and you know at, him and speaking of Nathan Desmond, both of them 8th graders wrestling in the high school division. Desmond at 106. So both these guys not afraid to compete against some bigger, older competition, and they both did really well down there this weekend.
Yeah, I was hoping Desmond would get on, but he again 106 was kind of a little bit more wide open, and he's definitely given up some weight. He wrestled Bo at 100 pounds at True Power, so but very impressed with Colin Rath and what he was able to do. 120 was definitely the best weight class for Pennsylvania wrestlers. We had 3 guys get on the podium: Mason Gibson, 2nd, Mac Church 4th, and Tyler Kasak 7th. This was definitely 3 guys, and remember, this was without Gary Steen. We were expecting Gary Steen. He has a minor injury, nothing serious, but he wasn't able to go at Myrtle Beach. Mason Gibson, returning Super 32 champion as an 8th grader. Now he's a 9th grader wrestling up 2 weights. There's a lot of people who didn't think he was going to make it to the finals. In fact, a lot of people still think he probably shouldn't have made it to the finals because of that semifinal match
Whew.
with Colderhand. That was just, I mean, that was an insane match, right? And I don't know about the escape and then the non-escape, and then you get 5 seconds left to. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird exchange, and
Yeah,
I don't know if I would
I
have.
was watching Church Flynn, and that one finished up, so I flipped over to see what was happening there, and I'm like, wait a second, what the heck? It's tied in, or he's losing, or actually he lost in an ultimate tiebreaker, and then they're throwing a challenge pool noodle. It was a challenge pool noodle,
Right.
and then that gets reversed, and then no escape, and then the Coderhand's corner throws the pool needle, and wants to challenge the locked hands. Nothing there, and then 5 seconds to ride him out, which I mean that's basically like really easy. So I mean, but it
Right.
was like you said, it was just a
Because when
weird
you stop
situation
the
all around.
action, you stop
Yeah,
the action, right? Because
I think
did he escape at that point? Maybe, maybe
no,
not. But I
I
mean,
I don't. I
I don't.
don't think he escaped at that point, but he lets it go. It's definitely an escape.
Yeah, he exactly. He lets it go.
He lets it go. It's definitely an
He's
escape
gonna
because
escape unless Mason drops down to an ankle and holds on for dear life. Um, he's gonna escape. So that was kind of weird. Mason ends up falling to Cooper Flynn. Cooper Flynn's tough. I've
yeah,
we've watched him for several years now, McDonough School, and he's super tough. So I wasn't surprised that he was able to come out with a win there. He had a good match with Mac Church 4-2. That was a good match. Mac ends up finishing in 4th place. He beats Diego Sotelo from Illinois in the championship round, and then loses to him in the third and fourth place match. Loses him 7-0. So I'm sure he would like that one back. But Mac wrestled well, Mason wrestled well, and then of course Tyler Kasak, who Mac and Tyler wrestled at True Power, with Mac coming out on top of that match with a win. He ends up taking seventh. Again, he has a couple good wins. He beat Evan Frost from Louisiana 8-2, loses to Cooper Flynn in ultimate tiebreaker. Dyson, I don't know if you saw that match or not. That was a huge. That was a
Wasn't
close
it?
match.
Wasn't it on a caution?
It may have
I
been.
think I saw Willie tweet that it was on a caution.
It may have been on a caution. I know there was something that goofy that happened in it, because I remember that was back to back to back watching those matches at 120. It was 120 was hard to watch because you
Yeah.
had multiple PA guys going at it. But he comes back to finish in seventh place. He also lost to Diego Sotelo. He lost to him 5-2 in the consolation semifinals. Comes back, beats Evan Frost again 15-3. So really good showing for him. I was impressed with all three of those guys getting on the podium at Super 32. Jackson Arrington up at 126 pounds. He places fifth. Jackson's under the. I mean, he's. I feel like he's a guy who just probably doesn't get as much respect as maybe he should. He was a state champion 2 years ago, and of course he was in that monster bracket last year with Ryan Crocum and Levi Haynes. But he had a really good Super 32 tournament at 126. He looks older. Just watching him, he just looks like he's definitely not a kid anymore, Dyson. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just looks thicker. He looks more mature, and his wrestling really has picked up too. He lost to the same wrestler twice. He lost to Zeke Zeltzer from Indiana. He lost to him in the championship round 7-5 and loses to him in the Conci semifinals 7-2. But he had some really good wins. He beat Dustin Norris from Ohio, who actually Dylan Chappell also beat Dustin Norris. Dylan Chappell lost in the blood round. He was close to get it on the podium at Super 32. It would have been his second time finishing there. So, but Jackson had some tight matches. He had 2 tech falls pretty much right off the bat, but then had an overtime match with Sam Cartello from Ohio. He ends up beating him 2-0 in sudden victory. So he had to gut a few matches out. I was very impressed with Jackson Dyson.
Yeah, and like you said, both of his losses came to Zeke Seltzer, and Seltzer's really tough. I know Willie's been really high on him coming up through, and like you said, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Losses to Seltzer. Seltzer's really tough.
So 132, Nick Bazakis. Yes, he was registered under Team Pennsylvania, so we included him. Yes, he's probably not truly a Pennsylvanian. He does go to school in Pennsylvania, but it's hard for us to claim him as Pennsylvania, right? He won a Powerade title as an 8th grader when he was in Florida. So, and he has. I think Willie said he was from New York. I think Willie said when he counted him, he said he was from New York. So, either way, he is still on Team PA for the Super 32 as he goes to Wyoming Seminary. His name is registered under Team PA. Fun fact: Ryan Anderson was not. Every time he wrestled in Super 32, he was always per Jersey. He was always Team New Jersey because he lived in Jersey but wrestled in Pennsylvania. So, he never really was a Pennsylvania product in Super 32. So just keep that in mind. Nick Bazakis dominates 132 completely, just tears through the competition. I don't know if there's anyone better right now, Dyson, than him from a domination standpoint. I mean, is he close to being the pound for pound best wrestler in the nation, do you think?
Yeah, I think. I know he's the top of the class of 2022 big board, above Crookham, but I think he's got to be up there. You see guys go down there and win these big tournaments, but I mean, what he was able to do is just unbelievable. Fall, tech fall, decision, major decision.
Yeah,
I mean that's just that's nuts.
he was lights out. I mean, he's such a high pace, man. He wrestles so tough. So, it was his second title. He does what Nick Bazakis does, and that's just win, all the time. So, he gets a championship belt. Nathan Lucier was definitely the guy who everyone was like, who is he? And I'm like, he wrestled in True Power a weekend ago. He wrestled in True Power. Um, got beat up a little bit by Levi Haynes, but again, that was up a weight. He wrestles at 32 down here in Myrtle Beach, ends up making it to the semifinals. I mean, I thought he had a great match with Blaine Brenner from Wisconsin in the quarterfinals. He beat him 4-3. Loses to Chance Lamar, who we know is really tough, but then Nick Bazakis beats him 13-4. He comes back to finish fifth. I mean, he could have went, semifinal slips, down to six, but he came back and got a nice win over Ty Whalen of New Jersey, 3-2 to finish fifth. So I'm doing a stock report on the Super 32. Nathan Lucier is going way up, because he really looked good here at Super 32, Dyson.
Yeah, definitely. You know, lost to Lamer. Let's get another. Lamer is real tough, so that's not a bad loss, and definitely, like you said, definitely going up in the stock report. It's a big weekend for Nathan Lucier.
And you move up to 138 pounds. Again, we had two guys from True Power that ended up finishing on the medal stand. Levi Haynes second, Kyle Houseman fourth. Levi Haynes, so I may have jinxed him, right? Because I on Friday or whenever before his first
Saturday
match,
at 1:43
Saturday at
p.m.
1:43, before 138 pounds even wrestled, I texted and I said, Dyson, Levi Haynes is winning the damn thing. I really did. I liked his position. I thought he was going to get to the finals, and but I also maybe slept on Caden McRae a little bit. I didn't
Georgia kid.
Georgia kid, yeah. Shout out Cliff Fertroll, and I didn't realize how tough he was. He is very tough, but I just thought Levi had. I thought after watching Levi at True Power, there was no way Ann was going to stop him. I don't know if it was the haircut. He lost his mop and he got a
Yeah,
haircut.
I couldn't recognize it at first.
I know. I'm like, where did Levi go? And you're like, oh wait,
I think it was the Alanis match. They're both in blue singlets, and just right in the middle of the match, it was like zoomed out in the normal thing, and I was like, wait a second, which one's? And I was like, oh, he got his hair cut.
Yeah, he did. He looks good too. Levi ends up having some couple tough matches. Calum Sitek from Missouri, he beat him 7-3 in sudden victory. That was a tight match. You were pretty high on Sinclair from Wisconsin, the freshman, right? In the opening round match. How'd that turn out?
Yeah, major
not
decision for
good.
Haynes, 11-0.
Beat Kelvin Griffin from the Hill School, and then beats Benjamin Alanis from Arizona in the semifinals. Loses to Caden McCrary from Georgia. He just got out wrestled in that match. I was very impressed with McCrary. I was very impressed with the way he was able to really control the match too. So, Dyson, what's the 411 on him? Is he a Fargo placer? Is he what's his deal?
I know he's a North Carolina commit. I believe he's I think fifth in the nation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think
By,
Willie
Matt
had him.
Scouts.
Willie had him definitely top 10 in the nation. Matt Scouts did, but thank you for giving me his resume. You can't tell me he finished in any tournaments. I thought you were supposed to know all these guys.
I'm not a Georgia expertise, okay?
You're just an Iowa expert. Kyle Houseman, he loses to Jude Swisher at True Power in probably one of the better matches of the night in True Power and Tyrone. Comes back to Super 32 at 138 pounds and has a phenomenal weekend. Takes fourth. He avenges a loss. He lost to Ramon Ramos from Arizona. He got pinned by him. Comes back and beats him in the consolation semifinals 6-4. He does lose to Hunter Garvin. That's your boy, right? He's pretty tough. I know you like Hunter Garvin. But Kyle Houseman, man, Penn I love Penn. I love Roger Reyna and Brian Pearsall and all those guys there. They got a good one here with Kyle Houseman. He looked really good down the Super 32. Very impressed with him and how he's able to come back and get that win. He also pinned Nick Moore, who I believe was the top seed, right? Nick Moore was the top seed at 138 pounds. Kyle Houseman pins him, Tyson.
PA's better than Ohio.
I mean, that goes without saying. Kelvin Griffin from the Hill School, again, not a Pennsylvania guy. I believe he's from Maine. He's definitely not from Pennsylvania, but wrestles in Pennsylvania. He did take eighth place. He loses to a pair of Pennsylvania guys, Levi Haynes and Kyle Hauserman. 145 pounds, Rocco Welsh, another guy who took a loss at True Power, comes back to just
A lot of true power competitors.
a lot of true power competitors, a lot of true power guys who didn't win did pretty well here, right? Nathan
Yeah.
Lucier, Vinny Kilkeary, Rocco Welsh. Rocco ends up taking second at 145 pounds, right? He wrestled Alejandro Herrera Rondon at True Power 155 pounds. He, obviously giving up a little bit of weight there, but Rocco comes in. He has some good matches. That semifinal match with Garrison Dendy from Georgia was a good match. He was able to come out on top. He did lose to Alec Martin, from Ohio.
Kid's a stud.
Yeah, I know you. That's your boy. I even think Rob Waltko likes him too. So,
He's not my boy. I just know he is a stud.
okay, so he's not your boy, but he's good, right?
Yep.
He had a nice match over Kodiak Kennedy, I believe that's how you say his name, a Tennessee product, and he beat him 4-0. Overall, I was impressed with Rocco and how he competed as a sophomore. Right, he's still just a sophomore and wrestled very tough. 145 pounds, a little bit more of an open. Definitely maybe didn't have as many of the top tier guys, but still, I was very impressed with Rocco and coming out with second at Super 32. Nothing to say, Dyson? You're good?
I know Alec Martin's committed to South Dakota State. He's an Ohio State champ, and
Yeah.
he's a senior, I believe.
So we talked about the stock report, and Grant McKay from Laurel, formerly of North Allegheny, trains at a Quest School of Wrestling, definitely went up big time. He's a sophomore. Last year was a state qualifier. Was top 4 of our top incoming freshmen last year. Again, as a freshman at North Allegheny, now he's a sophomore. He's at Laurel High School, north of Pittsburgh now, and that's AA versus AAA. Grant comes in, has some big time wins. Beat Monroe from Georgia. He beat Darian Estevez from Florida 2-1. He loses to Ferrari, but comes back, wins in the blood round, ends up taking 8th place, loses his last 2, but still, for a sophomore, a little bit under the radar. Definitely not a guy who was probably looked at to finish top 8. He had a great tournament. In addition to Pernero Johnson. What is it with wrestlers who lost at True Power, Dyson? Because Pernero Johnson got majored by Jared Kessler 9-0 at True Power, ends up placing 4th at Super 32. And Jared Kessler, unfortunately, I think he went 1-2, right? So
Yeah,
it's crazy how the
pretty
draws
bad weekend for Kessler. But
yeah, not a great weekend for Kessler, but a great weekend for Pernero, Dyson.
But it was the other way around the weekend before at True Power.
Yeah, absolutely it was. And Panero had some good wins, man. He beat Robert Weston from Georgia, another Georgia guy. He beat him in sudden victory 3-1. Sam Beckett from the Hill School, he beat him 8-4. That's a national prep medalist. He lost to Anthony Ferrari from Oklahoma and 7-4, but he does come back. And there was some controversy, I believe, in the fourth place match, right? That slam non-slam type thing. I don't know. It was weird. He did you see that thing, Dyson?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it on Twitter. Mark Steen was tweeting about it. I don't think it was a slam. I think some people were even saying that it was because of Panero's foot sweep, but I think it's the kid went for a backflip.
Right. He tried to pull the
did it to himself.
RBY from
Mason Gibson did pull the RBI.
He did. I know he did. But still, he tried that in that match, and Panero his foot just kind of guided him that way. Yeah, that was weird. But 160 pounds, Eric Gibson takes 5th. This was a guy who we thought was going to maybe do a little bit better. What do you think about Eric's 5th place finish? Were you disappointed? He got pinned by Mongoya from Ohio. What were your thoughts on Eric Gibson here?
I thought maybe I thought maybe I'd see him a little bit higher up on the podium, but fifth place isn't terrible at Super 32, toughest tournament in the nation. But I think his losses, they're not terrible losses. Maybe a couple under the radar guys, but nothing to be. I mean, those are still a great tournament for Gibson placing fifth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't a good tournament for him. I think we are accustomed to Eric wrestling at such a high level. I kind of expected him to be top three. I don't know. Maybe that was just higher expectations for him. And after watching him at True Power the weekend before, I just thought he was. I just really thought he was going to be top three. I mean, fifth is still. I mean, like you said, fifth at probably one of the toughest, if not the toughest tournament in the nation. Still pretty good, right? 170 pounds. Carson Manville, former Fargo national champ. He's won everything there is. National prep champ. He takes 6. He's now at State College. Again, not a real true Pennsylvania kid. He's Virginia, Minnesota kind of guy, but he's now in Pennsylvania. He took 6th place. He actually injury defaulted in the 6th or the 5th place match. Sammy Starr had a great tournament at 170 pounds. Sammy Starr from Kiski's, a 12th grader, was a state qualifier last year. He has a couple of really big wins. He was able to come out on top of a match with Cole Mulhauser from New York and get a win. I was impressed with him. He's the kind of guy who's more of a big move guy. He's very good from upper body, but he clearly dialed it in to have a good showing here, consistent showing here. Very impressed with him, Dyson. Joey Milano from Springford, who's headed to NC State. He was 3rd at 182 pounds. Did you watch that match with Brian Sodano from New Jersey? It was a 12-10 match.
I didn't. I might have to go back.
Go back and watch that one. That was a good match. Joey, he came back, and other than that match, Joey wrestled really, really well, I thought, and he did wrestle well in that match. I just thought, the 3rd place match he won 9-1 over Aiden Haining. So I think Joey Milano is on a different level, especially when you look at Pennsylvania. I'd love to see him and Max Stout go at it, to be honest with you. Another guy whose stock report went way up, Ethan Finch from Sheffield, out of Bad Karma. He was a state medalist last year. He comes in, places 4th place. I was 95, a little bit more wide open, but I was very impressed with Ethan Finch coming away. He beat Joey Bronangle from Illinois, who I feel like that family's just been producing them for forever out of Illinois. But Isaiah Anderson, he beat Connor Maslank from New Hampshire. He was very impressive at 195 pounds. So he's got to feel good coming into a senior year.
I remember seeing Willie tweet after the tournament. He's like, I'm from PA and I have no idea this Ethan Finch kid, and heck, I don't even know where his school. I never heard of his school before.
That's like Thane Lawrence and Fraser, man. Everyone's like, who the heck is Thane Lawrence and where the hell is Fraser? Like, I can remember having to explain that to people. Perryopolis, PA. That's our power hour, Dyson. We went a little bit over, 2 minutes over, so I'll give you a 2-minute because you had to.
We started a little late though.
Maybe. But yeah, I appreciate. I know it's almost your bedtime. It's definitely Brock Zacharel's bedtime.
It definitely is Brock Zacharel's bedtime.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll be back. We'll be back soon. We'll have more to talk about, right, Dyson?
Going to Iowa this weekend.
You're going to Iowa this weekend. HWC.
There's some wrestling happening in Iowa.
Maybe you and some of your Iowa friends can do a preview of that. We do got 3 Pennsylvania wrestlers. Well, actually 5 now if you look at the undercard with Max Muir and Caleb Young wrestling. Max Muir's got Mitch McKee. That's a big match.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's probably the best one on the undercard.
Yeah.
All the other ones are Iowa versus Iowa guys. That one they brought in Mitch McKee.
Yeah, those are like wrestle-offs. Yeah, those are other ones. But Spencer, Austin DeSanto, Mikey Kemmer are all going to be wrestling in the main event on Track Wrestling. So we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, Dyson, all right?
Sounds good.
Get to bed, all right?
All right.
Thanks for stopping by, Dyson. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.